Hello, my name is Zainab Al Fakhri and I'm from Iraq. I was born, raised, and still live in Mosul. I live with my parents in a big house, along with my three younger brothers and my beautiful little sister. I'm 22 years old and I study translation at the University of Mosul. I really love painting and I'm obsessed with Van Gogh. I also really love reading and I love practicing calligraphy. This is my neighborhood. Now I'm going to introduce you to my beautiful city, but first, here is the sad truth. From 2014 to 2017, the city was invaded by the ISIS and it was under their control for 3 years. During these 3 years, the city was burned to ashes and it was completely destroyed. The infrastructure, the monuments, the hospitals, the houses, the bridges, everything was left in ruins and everything was out of service. And the thousands of lives, innocent lives, that ended during the war, including 5 of my family members, my grandmother, my uncle, my aunt, and my 2 cousins. After the liberation in 2017, people started to rise again. They started to just want their lives back, and they tried so hard to rebuild the city. But sadly, even after 4 years of liberation, the right side of the city is still almost completely destroyed. The hospitals all over the city are actually still out of service. But we never give up. We really are never gonna give up. We are trying so hard and we will still always forever try to rebuild our beautiful city with everything that we can do and everything that we can give. Mosul is one of the major cities in northern Iraq. It's divided by the river Tigris into 2 sides. The left side, which is on the east bank, and the right side where I live, which is on the west side. The temperature in Mosul during summer can reach 40 to 45 degrees Celsius, but in winter the temperature varies from 13 to 15 high and from 3 to 5 low. Mosul is very well known for being so diverse. We have so many different ethnicities and they all live together in harmony. The largest group, however, are Arabs, followed by Kurds, Yazidis, Shebeks, Armenians, Turkmens, and other smaller minorities. And in terms of religion, the biggest religion in Mosul is Sunni Islam, followed by Christianity, Shebekism, Yazidism, and Shia Islam, and other smaller religious groups. There are a lot of myths and misconceptions about Iraq and Mosul. The first one I would say is all Iraqis hate Americans. That's really not true, guys. That's actually wrong on so many levels. The second one is the entire country, all Iraq, is a war zone or it's entirely unsafe and dangerous. No, that's really not true. As I said before, Mosul is one of the safest cities in the country. The third one would be Iraq is always hot. It's always a burning temperature. That is relatively true, but only during summer. The winter is actually pretty good. It's not so cold. It's actually, it's alright. The spring and the fall are actually beautiful. That's the most beautiful weather of all time. So it's just during the summer, really.
So I call today's class the king of all debates because it really is. It is the debate that just sits at the center in so many ways of every argument that has anything to do with human behavior, whether it's thinking, feeling, action, etc. Any argument that has to do with human behavior and the motivations of human behavior has this debate right at the center of it. So let's just go. Let's start. I think we're gonna go with. We have a number of guests from class, and I think we're going with Mackenzie first. So, Mackenzie, you can turn your mic on. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am doing quite well, actually. Hey, so and where are you from? Yeah, where are you from?
So I was born in Madrid, Spain, and then we moved to the States when I was about like 4, and then we currently live in Philly.
Mm-hmm. And how did you end up being born in Madrid?
My dad's from Madrid, and so all of his family lives in Spain, and then my mom's side of the family lives here.
Yeah, very cool. So do you speak Spanish?
I do, yes. I grew
Yeah.
up at first just speaking Spanish and then
Yeah.
transitioned into English.
I guess I should say Castellano, right? Because the Madrileños say Castellano, right? Not Spanish.
And
Because
Castellano, yeah.
for the Madrileños, Castilla is the center of the universe. So Castellano
Yeah.
is the language. So Spain actually is my first love. I mean, anybody who, yeah, when like when you travel, when you go places when you're young and you sort of land in that one spot that just pulls at your heartstrings and so on. So Spain was mine. And I spent 6 months there when I was 20 or 21. And so awesome, man. It's a cool city. Hey,
What's your favorite city?
In Spain, well,
yeah,
later in life, my wife and I lived in the south in Andalusia in Sevilla. And so,
okay.
Sevilla is just Sevilla, but I'm going to say Madrid. There's something just about it because my heart was there, so. Hey, so listen, Jeff, if you can put up that first slide, that would be awesome. And Mackenzie, what I'd like you to do is explain this slide as best you can. So what this is, it's a slide of that's going to show median net worth. And median means that half of all families are going to be above and half of all families are going to be below. And this is net worth of white people, black people. This is just the United States, right? Asians and Native Americans. Mm-hmm. And just explain that. Well, explain the differences. Just explain the slide. Like, what do you make of how different it is for each group?
I mean, like, I'm not surprised per se of what the graph is showing, just because of like what I've seen throughout my entire life. Like, white people kind of tend to like make more money in certain fields, and I do know a little bit with like Asian culture, not a whole lot, but like I do know that like there are tons of families that are like extremely wealthy, and so I can see that, like how they're a lot higher than Blacks, like Hispanics, and then Native Americans.
And think about some causality now, right? Because now we're going to talk about causality. What causes those differences? Like when you look at that, what comes to mind just for you? Just thinking out loud, right? Listen, you could write a 20-volume book series on this, right? So you got like just a few minutes, but what are just some of the things that come to mind really fast?
I don't know, really. Like, what are like the causes of like why certain races make more? I don't really know, actually. Like, I don't really have like one main idea of like why that would cause it. I want to say that it's more like geographical, and like, I don't know. Like, that's just my guess. I'm assuming.
Okay, so think about how it is that white, just say, you mentioned you see a lot of really wealthy Asians. So like, let's go right there, right? How are Asians ahead of Black families, Hispanics, and Native Americans?
I guess like just like the certain like businesses that they've gone into. Like, I feel like they kind of do all like, we have like, they make all like the necessities, I guess. So like there's like oil, and then there's like all like the food chains. So like, I guess that's maybe why. I don't really know.
Okay. Listen, you just go around, right? Yep. That maybe there's something there. It's families. Okay. This isn't individual net worth, it's family net worth. So
Yeah.
then that means that under a household, you got certain family structures, right? So anything just jump out with it there for you?
Like, what do you mean?
Well, like for
Like,
Asians. Yeah.
like inside just a single family, or just like
Yep.
how it's like
Yep.
structured family by family?
Yeah, inside a single family.
Um,
Because Jeff, you could like
I don't,
just pop that back up just for a second, just so we keep looking at it. Niche. Or let me just, how about like look at white people, man. Look at how far how much more wealth white people have in this country on average. And this is median, right? If it was mean, it would include, all the billionaires and all the millionaires and billionaires would we'd make that even greater. But I did median so that actually, how do white people get so wealthy? Yeah, how white people get so wealthy?
um, I don't know. I feel like it's just like kind of always been that way. Not like every single family, but like
Yeah.
just kind of like looking back through that, like throughout history, I feel like
Yeah.
because white people kind of had like a level up from the rest of like the races, they
Yeah.
kind of like that kind of like I can see why that's like why like the whites are so much greater than everything else.
Yeah. So a level up meaning, so, right. So first off, it's not all white people. So that's really cool that you said that, right? Because you got, and look, half of all Black Americans are considered to be middle class, right? So you in terms of income, not in terms of wealth. And so, you can look at this median net wealth and be like, well, look at how Black people fall so far behind. But yet, Black people aren't just poor, man. Half of all Black Americans are middle class. And then of the other half, you have rich Black people and then you have poor Black people, right? But disproportionately poor. So, yeah, so you're saying like white people get a leg up, right? You have slavery.
Yeah, I just think it's just like how like our history has shown, and like not even just in the US, like kind of like everywhere. It's just kind of like been that way. So like they kind of have like a leg up a little bit than like a lot of the other races, unfortunately.
Yeah, so if we take Latin America, for example, right? Your father's family is European, right? I mean, they're right. And so when you go into Latin America, and let's say we go to Colombia or we go to Venezuela, or any number of countries, right? Well, it's interesting that the elites in these countries tend to be really light skinned, right? They're descendants more directly from the Spanish. So the Spaniards come, they conquer Latin America, they're mostly white. They then control all of the elite structures in South America and Latin America. And then okay, it's white people, right? So you look at all the past presidents of a place like, Argentina, Colombia, Venezuela, where it's not the indigenous peoples, it's like white people. So, okay. So you're saying it's not just the United States, it's everywhere. All right, so listen. So here's one of the things, right? One of the issues that we're battling with all the time in the world of race relations is how to make sense of these kinds of things. This kind of graph, right? Like, so when you see that, my guess is you probably have never seen these numbers like that, right? Laid out with different groups. Okay. And when you see it, it's really pronounced. I mean, like most people don't. We walk through the world, like you've walked through the world learning that there's discrimination and there's racism, and there's prejudice, and white people benefit in these different ways. But we don't know that. Like, you know what I mean? But we have to make sense of what that actually means. So I don't know. If you don't focus on it, we don't learn about it. Right?
Yeah.
How about does it strike you that Native Americans are really the poorest group in the United States?
Honestly, it isn't surprising. Just because of like how kind of closed off they've been made from like society in the US. Like
Uh-huh.
I've never been like I've never like openly known someone that's Native American, but I did sort of learn about it, and they're
Uh-huh.
kind of just like pushed into these reservations where they
Uh-huh.
don't have a lot of like opportunities to like go outside and like have a job.
Uh-huh. Or where the land around there is really, it's the whole thing is set up in a way that it's difficult
Yeah,
to get
it's like
ahead. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, here's the thing. So somehow now we got to figure out how this got to be this way. Okay. What's the cause? Like we got to understand, because every human being has a certain ability to make decisions for themselves. And every family system has an ability to make decisions for themselves. So if everybody is doing that, why is this so unequal? Right? Like what is going on here that it would be so unequal? All right. So I'm not going to ask you to answer the question. You know, like you did really, your response today is just the perfect response of the average person. It's like, you haven't seen these numbers. We don't really, most people don't see these numbers. Black and brown people don't really see these numbers. Black and brown people talk about inequality a lot, but they don't do it on the basis of data, because that's where people like who do what I do come in, and we start really looking at the data. And then it's surprising to everybody, you know? Okay, but I'm gonna move on, and so anyway, awesome, great, thank you. And
Thank you.
thanks for just like rolling with it and just, you know, see if you can figure it out. All right.
Thank you,
Awesome,
Sam.
man. You can stay on. You can just turn your camera off and stay on, and then that'll be cool. Hey, so Jeff, and Nish, if you can, hey, can we do the top hat? Actually, it's going to go up in about 15 or 20 seconds or something like that. All right. So Jeff, what I want to do is our class. So here's the deal, right? I'm going to put some text up in a second. By the way, the top hat is up, my friends. Do not say that you didn't see it. It's not there. You have no idea, whatever. It is up. You got plenty of time. Do it. Make it happen. All right. So here's the thing. When we are thinking about human behavior, and you know, we're doing what we need to do to figure out why and how it is that humans do think and say and feel what they do think, say, and feel, right? You got to figure out what the causality is of that. You know, what is it? Like, how did I get here? You know, what am I doing here? Like where I am, like how it is it that I got to be a professor? What are all the factors and forces that come into play for me to be a professor? And if I take all of these factors and forces and I break them up into two separate categories. So we can, so go ahead and put that slide up. If you look at this, on the left side is all of the factors and forces, the things that have to do with me and my decisions that I've made and my ability to take control of my own life, my ability to shape my own destiny, right? That I'm always free to do one thing or another. I mean, not always. Sometimes I'm completely constrained. Maybe I'm in prison or something, or maybe I'm not free to just get up and walk outside because I'm in a wheelchair or something. But the bottom line is I have a degree of freedom to move my own destiny forward. That's over here. That's me. On the other side are all of the factors and forces that have to do with the things outside of me that shape my life. So it would be, it's my destiny, right? My family, where I grew up, how I grew up, what I look like, how just smart I am, organically. Do I have a learning disability? Whatever, what's my skin color? How tall I am? Am I a man? Am I a woman? Am I transgendered? Am I, cisgendered? What am I, right? Where do I grow up? Did I grow up in the United States? And if I grew up in the United States, do I grow up in rural Mississippi, or do I grow up in like a wealthy part of Massachusetts? Was I born in Spain and I moved to the US? Do I have two parents from different continents? Those are all the factors and forces over here. Go back to me. Now we have all of me. And even within the context of all of those things, I still have all my own issues. So go ahead, you can take that down. And so you get it, right? Causality. We want to understand something. We want to understand whatever it is about the soul, about human beings, whatever it is, doesn't matter. We account for whatever it is that we say, oh, here's a cause of that. It's going to fall on this side, these factors and forces outside of someone's control, or it's going to fall on this side, the things the ways in which they can and do shape their destiny. Okay, so let's bring Anusha in. You can turn your camera on. Anusha, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm rocking and rolling, as it would be. And tell us something about yourself.
So I'm from PA. I'm from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So it's like 100 miles, I think.
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, up here, so pretty close.
And your last name, Iyer, Iyer.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that name from?
It's Indian. So both my parents were born and raised in India, and then they came to the U.S. in the 90s.
So is it North Indian, South Indian? Like
it's South Indian.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I know. And is it shortened for something? I've seen the name because I've seen the name before.
No, my name is actually, it's interesting because most South Indian names are kind of long, but mine just happens to be really short.
Dude, you're making up for it in the other direction.
I guess so.
All right. Hey, so can Nish and Jeff, you can put that next image up. So so you heard what I just said about all the factors and forces that come into play, right?
Yeah.
All right. So here's what I want you to do. As soon as this image goes up, tell us about this guy. Say what you can say. Just tell how you pass him on the street, and you're gonna like ask how this guy get homeless. What are some questions that you have or statements you would make to yourself? What's the cause, man? How do you just make sense of it? You just jump all around because you don't know anything about him, obviously. So you don't know this. I'm not asking for specifics. I'm asking like take what I just said and start throwing some questions and statements out.
I would my first thing would be like how he got to where he is, like whether like he's a veteran or something happened, or just like how he got to this point.
Okay, so that's the question, how he got to this point. So go ahead, throw some. So you said, okay, maybe he's a veteran. So where does that go? Like, what do you keep going with it? So remember, yep, go ahead.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of veterans that end up being homeless just because of if they were released or just I forget what it's called, but like discharged, and they face a lot of adversity once they leave the armed forces. So that could be a thing. Like you see it a lot, especially like in the cities and stuff. It's a common thing.
Okay, what else? What do you know about him? Like what's involved in his homelessness for sure? What are you just certain is involved?
Money, lack of money.
And what's the cause of that?
Jobs.
What else? Like what?
Job.
Why didn't he have a job? Do you think? What do you think? Why do you think he didn't have a job?
It could be lack of education. It could just be like, I don't know, like mistreatment at a workplace. There's like a lot of factors that could go into it. It could just be family life. Like
what? Throw a couple things out. Just keep like throwing stuff as fast as you can. Like what else? What do you mean family life?
I don't know. Maybe like his family was struggling to make money, and he just comes from like a bad home, or like foster care is always a thing, or like I mean, there's along the family lines. That's pretty much what I can think of.
All right. You're doing great, by the way. Keep going. What else? Think of some more things. Come on. Because listen, the reason I'm doing this, and everybody, those of you who are watching, just throw stuff out, right? Like, because we do this all the time. We assess something, we find out that, that someone has lung cancer. Oh, someone has lung cancer. Did you hear? Oh, did they smoke? Like, immediately, boom, did they smoke? Do they have cancer in their family? Like, what is it? It's always there. So this guy's family life, what are some hypotheses that you could do? Like, okay, it's dysfunctional.
When I first think about family life, and like when you associate that with homelessness, you always think of like someone who just had a bad life, or there was, issues with their family, or like homeless from their childhood, or orphanage, or foster care. Because like I know, like when you're in the foster care system, it's really hard to get out and like make a life for yourself, because it's such a like constricting environment, and it's kind of a toxic environment. So stuff like that is really difficult to come out of.
Okay, so listen, so you're focusing a lot on the stuff out here, the factors and forces out here. What about him? What about him? Remember, you got the two sides of the divide, right? You have the factors and forces outside of him, and then you have him. What are some things there that might be in play?
For him, it just might be, maybe him not taking advantage of certain opportunities.
Okay, you got it. Go ahead. Keep going.
So him just not taking advantage of opportunities, or just not pushing himself to become what he could have, or not applying himself in ways that he could have.
Do you think he's from a poor family?
It's possible, but
I think he's from a rich family. How about, what's the difference between poor family and rich family? What's the likelihood?
Poor family, most probably.
But it could be rich.
He could be rich, and he could have been like disowned or had some issue with his family, but the chance of him being a poor family, I think, would be more than a rich.
Yo, man, he could have maybe he was a student at Penn State, and in his freshman year, he decided to play video games instead of studying, or like do bong hits all year long, and he dropped out, right? And his whole family, and they're like, listen, man, you don't have to do this, but and he's like, nah, I want to do it. And okay, you see, like, what are some other things with him, right? You said something about work, job.
Yeah, he could have like had a disability, and he couldn't have that could have led him to lose his job, and that could have affected him. So like, that could have been a big factor, depending on what his job was, if he had one.
Okay. Awesome, man. Now here's my next question. Dude, perfect. Next question is, which do you think is more useful in understanding how we got there? The things he did, or the things that happened outside of him?
Honestly, I think it's the things that happen outside, because that affects the person more than the things that you do. Because like, at least for me, like, you don't realize what you do, but you pick up on the things that like that society does to you more than you do yourself.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of people would disagree with that, So like, don't you think that no matter okay, so listen, society, we are all shaped by our surroundings, right? We are all shaped fundamentally by the families we are born into. Fundamentally, pure and simple, right? You don't get around that. So and we know the social class that we're born into, all those things, right? The temperament of our parents, or parent, if it's just one, or whatever the case is, okay? But so, right? But in the context of that, we also have the ability at every moment to make another choice.
Right.
So how do you manage that?
Yeah, I definitely see that makes sense. Where I guess, well, if you look at it that way, it does make sense that like you would be more effective in terms of that, because like your decisions would impact where you end up more than society.
Well, they're going to impact where you end up. It may not take you from being working class to being really wealthy, or it may not take you from being really wealthy to being middle class.
Yeah.
Like giving up your money, but every decision you make is going to have an impact on the next decision that is available to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the world of sociology, and this is why sociologists are oftentimes seen as really liberal, right? Liberal is this idea, well, I asked you and you said, yes, the things outside of us, because they're so powerful. And I'm like, well, yeah, but so I want to go back to this, right? But the things outside of you aren't the things that get you out of bed every morning.
Right.
To study and do the work you have to do. Like
Yeah.
all day long, you are making decisions about your life and about your movement forward.
Yeah, it's true.
So then which one is more important?
I guess, yeah, it would definitely be you and the decision that you make, because every day you make little decisions that can affect your life.
Uh-huh. So then they're equal.
Yeah, I
right?
guess you could, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like you can never know which one is like a little bit more or a little bit less, or just fundamentally, I'm confronted with something, me as this human being right here, right? And all these things are affecting what happens next, which door I walk through.
Yeah, and you can't have one without the other.
Can't have one without the other. I'm going to make a decision, but my decision is shaped by things that I don't see and I don't understand. And that's just how this stuff operates. And so people who are more liberal, okay, as we talk about, are the people who tend to focus on the things that happen to us, outside of us. It's like, well, that person was born poor, or that person, whatever it would be, like the things that happen outside of us. People who are more, quote, conservative in the way that we think about, the way that they are conceptualized out here, which is misunderstood and so on. But the people who generally adopt a more conservative perspective are the ones who focus more on individual choice, right? And so those people very often, most often, they deny the power of sociological structure to influence us. But the people who are more liberal deny often the power of the ability for a human being to make a decision that's different other than the one that they just made 2 minutes ago, or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
So the two have to go hand in hand, which is awesome,
For sure.
And so when you are thinking about something like this, or those numbers about the wealth inequality, what's it tell you about the graph that Mackenzie was looking at and talking about?
I mean, some of that, like we said, decision that you make in society, it goes hand in hand. So some people were just dealt bad cards, and then it's really hard to get out of that. But then some of them, though, they made certain decisions that got them to that place. And so I think in majority, if you look at just in general, especially in the US, a lot of like the higher paying jobs and the more people that you would consider well off do tend to be white people compared to like other races and stuff. And I do see that. And like you look at Native Americans, and like you can tell, like Mackenzie was saying, how they are being pushed off their reservations, they're not given as much opportunity, and from where they come from, their culture and all that stuff kind of defines them as a population and as a race. And it's difficult for them to come up and out of that into society. So that's what the society role plays. But then like individually, they also are a very like conservative, tight-knit race, and they do not want to strive away from their culture and their upbringing and the teaching of their ancestors and so on. And that like applies to every race and culture.
So then explain to us how it is that Indians are in the United States, South Asians, Indians are really as wealthy as they are in the US. Not all, right? But why increasingly are we seeing so much wealth?
I mean, personally, I can't speak for the entire Indian population in the United States.
Tell us what you see.
At least from what I can see and what I've, grown up around, is a lot of them, at least like my parents and my friends' parents, they all came to the US looking for jobs. And that's why they came here. They wanted to get better experience, like, because they wanted to grow their career.
Did they have degrees? Did they already have college degrees?
Yeah. So, and using my dad as an example, my dad like got his bachelor's degree in India, and then he came to the States and he got his master's, and then he got a job. So there's people like that, and they either get degrees from like India and then they come to the US looking for a specific, they came just
Yeah.
to advance their career.
Yeah.
Which is why then a lot of them start doing better and they start earning money because they end up being in like the more well-off jobs.
Dude, listen, totally, especially tech and so on, right? There's a
Yeah,
certain
especially.
discrimination. Yeah, and there's a discrimination against Indians where we'll be held out of management jobs, but we'll move into tech jobs. And so, it's like 70% of all Asian Indians who have come to the United States in the past 40 years have come with college degrees. In that same period, the number of Central Americans and Mexicans who have come to the United States with college degrees is like 3 or 4%. So, you know what I mean? It's just like, so it's like, you can't look at Asians and say, well, look at them, they're doing so great. But they already came. They were, your parents were, your father's allowed in here. He got a visa in the way they did because he had something. He wasn't coming from Bangladesh with nothing, right, which is like one step up from a refugee, and or South India, wherever, it doesn't matter. So then we see that. And so like, whoa, that stuff really shapes what we see, right? And then at the same time, we have like, well, but there are individual decisions because there are a lot of other people like your parents who decided, you know what, we're not going to take a risk and go to the United States. We're just going to hang out here. And, so the two things are working all the time hand in hand. Yeah. For sure. Dude, awesome. Very cool. I'm glad we got to have that little quick conversation. Thanks, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was great. All right. I appreciate it. Be well.
You too.
Yeah. Hey, so listen, I want to do, Jeff, can you, we're going to do Kendrick here. And Nisha and Jeff, I'd like you to put that SAT scores slide up if you could. So Kendrick, how you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Where are you right now? Are you in State College?
Yes, actually I am.
Yeah, cool. And is that a lava lamp next to you?
Yes, it is. Can you turn it on while I'm on the screen?
Dude. Oh yeah, turn it on, man. Please, by all means. Yeah, that's like let it rip.
Oh man.
Dude, when I was a kid, my mom had one of those, and I'm not going to say that I would get in a mind-altering state, but I maybe was sometimes in a mind-altering state, and I would sit and stare at it for hours on end. So she never knew why. All right, bro, look at you. Look at Twitch here really fast. Hey, where are you from, by the way?
Philadelphia.
All right, cool. What year are you?
Senior.
Senior. Oh man, you graduating?
Yeah, hopefully, yeah, by the end of this semester.
All right, dude. All right, make sure you pass my class. All right, so listen, take a look at that slide right there. SAT scores by family income. Right? On Twitch, you see that?
Yes.
What do you make of that? Like, tell us about that slide. You're seeing this for the first time, right?
Yes.
What do you, just tell us what you see.
Well, I mean, the more money you make, the better you do. If your family makes a lot of money, then the better you will do better on the SAT.
Okay, now we're looking at these two sides. Remember the personal responsibility or personal ability to make other decisions, and then we're looking at factors and forces outside of our control. So dude, so go further with it.
So basically, I just feel like, the wealthier your family is, the better score you get. That's just due to the fact that maybe the education you're receiving is better than the people who doesn't make as much as your family. So
just that, but what do you make of the fact that there are people in the bottom of that whose family income is really low, who ace the SATs, and there are people who are really wealthy who really struggle on the SATs, just like in this class, right? There are kids who anyway, what do you make of that? So now you got to explain that.
Okay, so basically, I feel like kids whose families that don't make a lot of money, who do really well, are basically looking at education as their way to help their family make money. So they're like, all right, I have to do the best I can so I don't have to live in this, so I don't have to continue to grow up in this. While the kids who make more money in their families, they're really pampered, so they feel like like at the end of the day, I'm coming from money, so like even if I don't do well, or even if I know I'm gonna get into a good school just because of connections.
Well, but listen, man, you're starting to formulate hypotheses. Okay, this is good because that's what this is all about. But you're just formulating hypotheses, so you spread them out a little bit, right? Because everybody, even if you grew up rich, you want your family, you want to do better than your family, and you want your family to do better than what they are currently doing. So you could be from a family of millionaires, but you're like, well, what the hell? Let's be billionaires. You know what I mean? Everybody's in the same boat, and everybody's going to work really hard. So, yeah, go further, man. I'm this person. I'm like, hey, man, don't blame the fact that you didn't do well on the SATs and the fact that your family doesn't have a lot of money, because some of those people killed it, right? So, like, you could have killed it, and some people went to poor schools, and some people did this, and some people did that, and like, they didn't have any of the advantages. You know, they grew up in foster care, man, or they grew up in a homeless shelter and they still took the SATs and they aced it. So, like, go ahead, man. Respond to that.
I think that just comes down to me personally, that just comes down to like self-motivation on wanting to put yourself in a better situation or make better of yourself.
Okay. And then what about people who want to they want to put themselves in a much better situation? They're totally motivated and they're rocking it, but they don't do well on the SATs. Like, explain that.
Well, I mean, I feel like, but the SATs is, I don't know. I didn't do well in SATs, I'll be honest, but it's just like, that's not because I'm like, that's just, it didn't matter on how my family is. I'm just not a good test taker. Like, people have certain
Okay,
struggle in certain things and do well in certain things. And it's just like, there's more, there should be more to it than just the SAT score.
okay, and there is. By the way, I'm sure you did better than me on the SATs. Remember, I scored in 51st percentile, man. So I never would have gotten into Penn State, ever. And that's why I teach here. If you can't do it, you teach it. So that's how we roll. So look, man. Okay. So then you get people with more money. It's a consistent roll up, right? It's consistent. It's like the more money your family makes, the higher your score is, just across the board, right? Till you get to the end. I mean, it's just like, yeah. You go from 0 to it's up to 200,000 plus. It's just a consistent improvement. So you're picking out just a few things. Mind you, this is another case where you, Kendrick, could write a 20-volume book series on this graph right here. And it probably 20 volumes wouldn't even be enough, because you'd have to think about all of the many hypotheses and thoughts and all sorts of things, right? For example, why do you think that kids whose families don't have a lot of money, throw a hypothesis out here, why do kids whose families don't have a lot of money, why do you think maybe we find out they don't study as hard? Many of them don't study as hard for the SATs. Why might that be?
That is because of the environment that they're growing up in. And
okay, it might be because of the environment. Okay, go ahead. Like what? For example?
Like where I grew up at, when growing up in Philly, and like seeing people around me, you see like people have choices, and like depending on the crowd that they choose to, and like also along with how their parents treat them, or what they're like, their outside voices that they're listening to, could cause them to either choose the right path or choose the wrong path, or feel motivated or feel like confident in themselves that they can do something, versus when if they're like, if it has a negative outlook, a negative effect on them where they end up going down the different path and feeling like this is the best way I have to do it, or this is the only way I can do it.
Yep. Okay. Got you. There's a hypothesis. And then we could explore that. Right. And that is in play for some people. And how about wealthy people that come from wealthy families who don't do well on the SATs? Give me a hypothesis there. Why might that be?
Well, that's just the case of maybe the kid is just like, he's just lackadaisical because, being coming from money, it's just like, oh, well, I'm just going to inherit my parents' money. I'm going to inherit this. Like, I'm just doing it just because, just to buy time until I get that, or or just to, just to have it and then use my money.
Okay, that could be, there's one, that's a possibility. Or maybe it's somebody who, I don't know, maybe they feel like they can't compete with, they feel out of sorts with the other family members and they can't compete, and maybe like they do really well in this other school, but they're in this really highly competitive school and it just like drags them down and like, oh man, all sorts of things. So let me ask you this. What group of people, think about the very first graph, the one that Mackenzie looked at, okay? What group of people in the United States has the lowest SAT scores on average?
Is it Black people?
No. Think about the graph.
Native Americans, was it?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Guaranteed, right? They're going to have, if we're going to look at income like this, then on average, probably Native Americans have the lowest SAT scores. Who has the second lowest on average?
No, that wasn't. Was it Mexicans on there? Or?
Nah, I think it was Black people.
It was Black people second? Okay.
But then Hispanics, right there. And then, yep. And then we see, and Asians are complex, right? Because Asians, again, it's like this bifurcated thing. It's like a lot of Asians do really, really well, as we just talked about. But a lot of Asians also don't. So there's a lot of Asians and people of Asian ancestry in the United States who are living in poverty. But we have this idea that, oh, all Asians are doing really great. And so it's like, no, you got a really wealthy sector and then you have a poor sector in a way that's very different. Just like, dude, we have rich Black people. I mean, like, come on, man. Like, damn, rich Black people, rich Latinos, rich whatever. We'll talk about this a little bit next class. But obviously, right? Okay, so here's the thing with this, right? If you're going to formulate hypotheses about why it is that this is happening, income and SAT scores, half your hypotheses would focus on the decisions, the things that people can control, right? And like you, for example, you're like, well, I'm not a really good test taker. Dude, really? How often have you gone to the library on a weekend and spent like all day Saturday and Sunday reading the hundreds of books about how to take tests better, how to improve your test taking abilities? Have you ever done that?
Nah, I also don't like going to the library. I can't focus in there.
Okay, there you are, dude. Well, okay, forget about that. Have you ever gone and just taken the book out, right?
I mean, yes, I've gone and taken books out of the library, but I can't, me personally.
How to take tests. How to improve your test taking.
No.
Okay. And how many things, like for the price of that lava lamp right next to you, you could buy a book that would guaranteed have, if you'd have bought it your freshman year, guaranteed it would have improved your test taking skills, right? But like you didn't do that. So that's a choice. Okay. So that would be like down here. Same with me, by the way. I didn't do that. I'm just like, I don't take tests really well. And so whatever. I didn't think about it. You know what I mean? The SAT, the whole thing, I'm in the same boat, right? So if I took, I'm not even going to say, if I took Swiss 119, I'd probably get a B in it, right? Which is maybe a B minus, but the point is I would get above a C, but right? So half of your hypotheses are about the individual, should be about the individual. And the responsibility for the individual and the ability for the individual to make decisions that would overcome. But like, you probably never had anyone say to you, hey, Kendrick, man, there's about 100 books over in the library there at Petit. Go grab one of them and read it about how to improve your test scores. You probably never had anyone say that to you, right?
No.
Dude, if you were my kid, I would have bought you that book. I'd have insisted. I'd be like, listen, Kendrick, I'm not writing this check out to Penn State. I'm not doing shit for you until I see you read one of those books. Like, that would be how it operate. Because I know, because I just have that knowledge, right? It's not because I'm better, I'm smarter, or whatever. It's just that this is the world I'm in. And so you would have access to me, and I'd force it on you, right? So it's like there now you're on the other side. You're on the hypotheses. Do people have people around? Do all these students have people around them who are like kind of helping them to navigate this world of test taking and SATs and one thing after another, right? So half your hypotheses are all about these matters, right? Dude, like, we haven't even talked about race, right? So this is true across the board with race, right? If you're Black and you come from a wealthy Black family, your SAT score is on average going to be much better if you come from a middle class Black family or a poor Black family. Same if you're Hispanic, Native American, whatever, it's all the same. So it's the hypotheses. Dude, by the way, class, this is why this is so awesome right here, okay? When you're in the middle of some kind of discussion or argument or anything about human behavior and what it is, make sure that half of your hypotheses are about the individual responsibility and the other half are about factors and forces outside of people's control, because they are both in operation all the time. And if you only focus on one and you neglect the other, you're making a serious intellectual miscalculation, in my humble opinion. No, it's not my humble opinion. Fuck that. You are making a serious intellectual miscalculation. Bro, you see that, right? You get that?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. What's your major, by the way?
Broadcast journalism.
All right, man. Awesome. Yep. Any final questions?
Well, so what if, like, you know how you said, like, if I was your son and you would just buy a book for me and be like, oh, I'm not doing this. But what if, like, your kid doesn't react to the same way you're motivating them? Like, you have to figure out how, like, you have to also, you can't do what you wanted on them because it might not be the same thing you wanted.
Dude, awesome. See, there you go. Now your mind's going, right? So now you go like, oh, now factors and forces outside of our control. There are all sorts of kids who come from backgrounds where they have a certain amount of privilege, but they can't utilize that privilege because it just doesn't work with them. And there's like a mismatch between the parents and the kid or whatever, right? Exactly. That's another thing. So like, awesome. Yep. Or, the kid just can't hear it. I don't know. I didn't hear it. I didn't understand. I went my whole life. I read late in life, I read a book about how to take tests. I mean, recently, just out of curiosity to see what I'd missed all my life. But now I don't have to take any more tests. So, yeah, fuck.
Do you feel like it would have helped you if you read it when you were younger?
Totally. When I decided I was going to be a student, it absolutely would have helped me. But in the end, I didn't care because I C's earned degrees, and here I am. Look at me right now. Here I am. So it's all good. I don't have a lava lamp though, but I could suppose it. Dude, I know, man. Oh,
it's a nice.
Can we see it? Turn your camera down. Let me just see it for a hot second here. Dude, awesome, man. All right, Delaney's all about that. All right, man. Kendrick, thanks. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, nice job. That was cool. All right. So listen, man. Can you, Delaney, you can just hop on here, I guess.
Hello?
Yeah, how you doing, man? Nice to see you.
Good. How are you?
Dude, I'm rocking. What's your background?
My background? Well, I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I was born here and lived here all my life. My dad went to Penn State, so that's kind of how I ended up there. But I'm home right now. I'm in Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah, Richmond, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. When did your dad go to Penn State?
I don't know. He was born 56, so
I only ask because I'm now of the age when I'm starting to have the kids of my former students in class. You know,
mm-hmm.
It's bizarre.
I don't know what year he would have graduated.
All right, man. Well, listen. What's your background?
My background?
Your ancestry.
Oh, okay. Well, my dad is Lebanese, and my mom has a bunch of European stuff, I think. So, oh, I'm in class.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, man. All right, bro. So listen, what'd you think of that? What'd you think of that last conversation? Like, what are you thinking of this, these two separate sets of causal factors and forces? Like,
I don't know. I think it really just, I think it depends more on the person more than some people would think. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily, like you guys were saying, depends on what you want. Like if you're born into a rich family, it doesn't mean you're going to want to do well in tests. Yeah. Maybe it doesn't matter to you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, here, but so the general idea though, that we have, that there are two general sets of factors and forces. They're the ones that come from the individual, and then they're the things outside of us, right? Like always holding those two things together. By the way, did I see a dog with you recently? Do you have a dog?
Yeah, it's a little bit distracting.
Make sure that
there's one right next to me.
Good.
What's that?
Before we be at the end of this session, I want to meet your dog.
Right? Okay. One of them.
All right. So listen, man.
Next to me. Yeah.
So I want to talk about. I'm going to do this. I'll do it. I want to talk about suicide. Okay.
Okay.
And so everyone in class, we're not going to. I'm going to show a couple graphs, and I want to talk about suicide. So I want to first say that if you just, I want to do a PSA of sorts. I'm going to talk about the sociology of suicide, but there is the psychology of suicide. That this is it's that if you're feeling any kind of suicide, depressed, man, suicidal ideation in any way, shape, or form, man, reach out, y'all, right? Reach out. We'll put the hotlines in the chats. Like, please reach out to us, and I'll put you in contact with someone. So Delaney, do you have people in your life who have committed suicide? I mean, do you know people?
I recently learned about someone in my family who, my grandma's brother, I think it was. I learned about it from my grandma. I was just sitting down eating lunch with her, and she brought it up. I didn't know anything about it, so I don't actually know if my mom knows that my grandma told me about it. So I don't know. But
so what's interesting is it is one of these things that we don't know a lot about. We don't talk a lot about, and as often as not, people who are even thinking about suicide are often not inclined to even say anything, because the idea is it's this deep secret, right? But the reality is, of course, it is almost everybody has thought at some level, had suicidal thoughts at some level, just like take your life, because how can you not? Like, we're alive, and then we have this idea that we're not alive. And so whether it's we participate in that or it just happens to us, that's just the nature of it. So here's the thing, right? I'm just gonna keep you. I'm just gonna talk a little bit, and I want you to respond to what I'm gonna say a little. Okay.
Sure. So
Jeff, you can just in Niche, you can just put me just pin me if you want for a second while I do this. So one of the most important studies in the field of sociology is this study called Suicide by this guy, Emil Durkheim. And it's probably the only time in this entire semester that I will put the name of a sociologist out there, because I just don't talk about people in that way, or scholars. And what was really notable about this is that we have this idea that suicide is a deeply, and by the way, this directly fits with today's class in a most powerful example of individual choice and factors and forces outside of our control and how they are fused. It's the most powerful example that I can ever imagine using. So we all imagine that suicide is the most deeply psychological action that anybody could ever take. Like there's nothing else that's more deeply personal and psychological. Like it can't be, right? Because to take my own life is like it is my own. It comes from within. I mean, there are a few instances, rare instances out there where human beings have been convinced by somebody else to take their own lives, or maybe they've taken their life in an act of wanting to be part of some group. But the vast majority of suicides, the vast, vast, vast majority are people who make that some kind of decision themselves. And if that's the case, that people are randomly making decisions because it's a deeply personal act, right? So like, I don't think about committing suicide. I don't sit back and say, well, if I'm thinking about suicide, I don't sit back and say, well, you know, what's going on in the world today and what kind of day is it? And I don't know, what's my social class and maybe it's the fact that I'm of a particular social class leads me to be having these feelings about suicide, or maybe it's the fact that I'm a man, you know, or maybe it's this, or maybe it's that, or, you know, let me kind of look at how the market is doing, or let me think. People don't do that. Or we don't think that they do. What happens is that the idea that it's, in the end, it's a decision that people make inside their own minds. And they make that decision in their minds and then they act. And if that's the case, then we would expect to see suicide rates like jumping all over the place. Because at any moment, human beings, in a collectivity of human beings, there could be a decision. There's going to be some decision by a certain number of them to take their own lives. And it could be here, it could be here, it could be here, it could be here, it could be wherever it is on the graph. But at any moment, it's going to be a different decision in a different point. Okay? Does that make sense? Delaney. So you can bring Delaney back on now for a second, and then we're going to go to that first graph. Bro, does that make sense to you, what I just said?
So you're saying if we just thought that people made this decision, not like they don't think about it, like what's happening outside of like the stock, whatever, it would be more sporadic, but you're saying that it's not sporadic, it follows some sort of pattern?
It follows a pattern. So here, look at your Twitch. We're going to do this. And I might do the Japanese slide. So we're going to put this first slide up here. This is the suicide rates per 100,000 people in the United States. It's going to go up in a second. And you can see how steady it is, right? There was in the 60s, in the 1960s, there was like a spike for women, and the bottom graph is women. There was a spike. See that on the far left? And then it just kind of levels off and it just slowly grows. With men, we see a different kind of spike, and then watch how it levels off. And it's every year, it's basically the same, year after year after year. And the idea here is that if that's the case, if it's the same, then individuals must not be just randomly making a decision about whether or not to take their own lives, but rather there must be other factors and forces that are held in place by society that are shaping the decisions that people make. So if that's true with something like suicide, then of course, and you can take that off, Jeff. If that's true with something like suicide, then it's also true with SAT scores and homelessness and income and jobs and one thing after another after another. It's going to be true with lots of things. So it's like, oh my God, that means that my life, my decision making is being shaped by things that I don't understand and that I don't see, and that are affecting me always at every moment. Right? That means everything we see in the world. Everything. Why is there more crime in cities? Right? Why is there more? Why do people who go to X type of schools end up doing better in life than people who go to Y type of schools, right? What is it? It's like one thing after another. It's like, holy shit. I don't even make the choice. I am not even totally free to make the choice to maybe even think about taking my own life. That is already being shaped by things around me. I mean, I make part of the choice, but the other part of the choice is happening outside of me. It's like, damn. What's your response to that?
I don't know. That's a lot to comprehend in a second, but I mean, it makes sense. Yeah. You're affected by things outside of your control, and you might still have the choice, but it's pushing you one way or the other.
Dude, it is so profound, actually. It's not just like you right now, the choice to cut your hair, right? Yeah, am I going to keep my hair long, or am I going to cut my hair? What year are you, by the way?
I'm a senior.
All right, I'm a senior. Are you graduating?
Not this semester, hopefully in the fall.
Okay, well, I'll graduate hopefully in the fall, and maybe I'll cut my hair. It's not a choice like that. You know, that choice is shaped by things around you, but even every single choice that you have is shaped by things around you. So when we start looking at race inequality, and we go to that first graph and we look at Native Americans, and we're like, well, Native Americans could make different choices, and they could have the same amount of wealth that white people have, or whatever. It's like, come on, man. Wait, it's just like, everything is affecting us. Everything. It's so complicated, and none of it is easy. And so when you start talking about all of these questions of economic, political, and social inequality, it is just profoundly disturbing how much our lives are shaped by things that we don't comprehend. And like white people, dude, why do white people have so much more wealth? Let me ask you that question.
This is the same question you asked at the beginning of the class, right?
Yeah.
All right. My thought when I heard that was that just in America specifically, I guess, because of racism in the past. So white people just had an upper hand for the last however hundreds of years.
But just racism? That's it?
I mean, no, but that's one of the reasons, I'd say.
Okay, that's one. But you said just racism in the past. And I know that was a figure of speaking.
First thing that came to my mind, I think, was.
Okay, I got you. Yep. And so, that's one, right? And then you got all these examples of people that work really, really hard. Every family I go to, and I ask them, like, hey, tell me about your grandparents or your great-grandparents. Oh, my great-grandfather, he worked 3 jobs, and he was like, the white grandfather, right? And I'm like, okay, and the person worked really hard. And so they made decisions, and things are happening to them. You know what I mean? Like these kinds of things are like, shit. So right now, hey, by the way, we're put the niche. Can you go ahead and put the next top hat question up now? And it's going to be up in about 15 seconds, I think. So, and Nish and Jeff, also, you could put that Japan slide up, would be really interesting. Right. Do you know anything about Japan? Do you know anything about Japan?
No, I really want to visit Japan though.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know much about.
Okay. Well, I will say it's well worth visiting. The top hat slide is up, my friends. Don't miss it. So here, look at this graph. We see a very similar kind of thing, right? Males are in blue, and females men are in blue, and women are in red. And right now, what's really noticeable, what's happening in Japan is there's this really sudden spike in suicides among women. And no one's really able to completely figure it out, but it's a really serious spike. It's, in fact, it's gone up by 15%. And just since last October, it's gone up by like 70%, the suicide rate, which is just like unprecedented. And so we're like, okay. So like if you come off to the right and you add another one of those bars, and then we say like, so what's going on? It's very steady. See how it's steady like that? That means like the rate's being shaped by things, these individual decisions that people are making. They're being shaped by society in this way. It's almost like society just decides that, hey, you know, and you guys, so what it would be, it's almost like society, it's like there are these invisible strings in any society, and it's just like deciding every year how many people are going to take their own lives. It's almost like it's an organism in of itself, and it's just pinging. Because you see how it doesn't change very much. So it's just, it has to like ping a certain number of people. It just has to reach down and touch, you know, like whatever it is, 30 in Japan, you know, like on average, you know, 25,000, let's say. It's just got to get 25,000 people, and there it is. Right? You think, God, it's almost like those people just get touched on the back of their head, and you know what I mean, right? Uh-huh. And that is profound to think about how our lives are being shaped in such powerful ways by things that we don't see and we don't understand. And by the way, what's going on right now in Japan is the thinking is that increasingly more and more women, especially young women, are living on their own, not with their families, and not cohabitating. And that when this COVID hit Japan, it just really hit so many of these young women hard. I mean, there are a lot of reasons for it. And young women, the industries that they're in, service industries, have been hit extremely hard by COVID. So, dude, what's this tell you? But if you had a friend who came to you and said something that they were thinking of taking their own life, like, what would you say?
I don't know. I'd ask them why they were thinking that and reassure them that there's no reason to do that, that I'd try to help them however I could, I guess. But I'd be interested as why they would be thinking that, because that would help me to help them, I guess.
So here's the, wait, hang on. So here's what I would say. First thing you would say is, hey, let's sit down and let's call a helpline with them. Okay. Because you don't, you know, I mean, you could talk, you can start like, hey, what's up? What are you thinking? Hey, but the best thing you could do is say, let's call somebody who's thinking about this as part of their profession, and we'll do it together. I'll do it with you. Not like, hey, here's the number. Why don't you go home and do this? It'd be like, nah, man, let's do that. And by the way, you do have friends who have thought about suicide. We all do. That's the thing. That's what makes this so profoundly disturbing, especially at a university, especially in the first year or two at a university. Everybody does. And so that would be the first thing. And then reassuring us that, in my mind anyway, I'm always thinking, hey, these aren't entirely my thoughts, right? Like I'm shaped by society. They are my thoughts, but I'm also being shaped by factors and forces outside of me. And that's really profound. Yeah. Dude, final thought. The balance, which way do you lean? Toward the freedom side or toward the societal side?
Of like your choice?
Yep.
Societal, I guess, after this conversation.
Dude, stay in the middle, my friend. It's after this conversation, you should be in the middle. It's just that, remember, this is a sociology class. So our job is to look at all of these things in society, the stuff outside of us. But you want to stay in the middle. It's always somewhere right there in the middle, no matter what. If you start talking about a social one, go to the individual one, right? It's like, yeah, well, it really sucks that, you know, you had that you lost your job in that way. Like, whoa, now what are you going to do? You know what I mean? It's like, it really sucks that your professor screwed up and gave you the wrong exam. Now what are you going to do? Whatever it is, I don't know. I have no idea. All right, man. Hey, where's your dog?
He's over there in the corner. Sarge.
What kind of dog is it?
It's a Great Pyrenees.
Oh, dude. Oh, you got to bring him over now. Let's
Okay.
see.
Let me grab him.
All right. So listen, class, essentially we're done, except we got to meet Delaney's dog. He's a Great Pyrenees. And then we're going to be
on
rocking and rolling.
Thursday's class.
And
class, we are going to have
there we
Roland
are.
Albertson come like early. It's like 2:45.
Yo, man, he's a big, he's a
good
big
friend
boy.
Of mine, good
He's
friend of
pretty
the
big.
stream. Actually, we'll play
Yeah.
one of his songs.
A lot of hair.
So
Awesome.
join us Thursday.
What's his name?
Sarge.
Sarge. All right, Sarge. Nice to meet you, man. All right, Delaney. Thanks, bro.
Thanks for having me
Appreciate
on.
it. Yeah. Thanks for being part of it. Definitely. No, thanks for being part of it. That was awesome. That was very cool. Hey, class. So once again, if you're struggling, please, by all means, reach out. Okay. Please, because this is big. There's a lot happening right now that's really difficult for so many of us in ways that really are they're really unable to fully understand and comprehend. Okay, so if you've had thoughts of suicide or self-harm in any way, by all means, please reach out. Penn State has so many resources, and you can reach out to us and we'll pass those on to you. Okay, or we'll talk. Hey, by the way, this is the last week of Block 2 for World in Conversation. So Block 3 starts next week. So get your Block 2 dialogues in, my friends, and make sure you sign up for globals. And if you sign up for a dialogue, do not miss your dialogue, because we're going to start running really short of seats, and you do not want to miss your dialogues. Okay. We will see you on Thursday.
2:45. Roland Albertson playing live here.
Take a step back if you dare. Tell me, when will you start to care? See that mountain melt to rivers. See that forest turn to sand. Tell me, would you smile when it's gone?